Ladies and gentlemen, kicking off the first stop on his world tour, our new president and prophet, Russell M. Nelson! You say you want some revelation, well, here you go. It's gonna blow your freaking mind.
Hey, greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the weekly Mormon News Roundup, where Dives and Al ruminate on the great and spacious beehive. This week, we have episode 23 coming at you for September 4th, 2022. We're going to do an interesting show this week. We're going to review Untold, the girlfriend who didn't exist, where we talk about the catfishing experience that ruined Manti Te'o's football career for a long time there. Also, we've got some other interesting things in the news this week. We've got a little bit of fallout from the BYU racist volleyball incident. Did it happen? Did it not? We're going to have to find out. Also, Bonnie Cordon's grandson's death has made it to the spotlight. She's tried to capitalize on a tragedy, and we're going to look into that a little bit and see what actually happened. It's looking a little bit iffy as to what really happened there. Also, we've got the LDS post multi-billion-dollar financial losses ever since they had to report that. We're going to look into that and see how well the LDS Church has done this year with the stock market having all those problems. Also, the church lawyers are trying to block the release of additional information in the Arizona AP sex abuse case. And the Mormon mom told by her bishop to quit her job or lose her church membership. We're going to follow up on this one's something that we've talked about before. So it's a little bit of a follow-up, but it's going to be interesting to talk about that one. And then also, as a knee-jerk reaction, BYU has decided they're going to eliminate the student fan section after the racist volleyball incident. So, it's a step that they're taking to curb any potential future problems that they had like last week. So, welcome, Dives.
Hey, it's great to be here, Al. For those of you out there listening, thanks for joining us. Come on over to our website, www.mormonnewsroundup.org, or send us an email to kolob@mormonnewsroundup.org, KOLOB, and we'd be delighted to interact with you. You can also send us a voicemail on Anchor. We are on Twitter. We are on Patreon. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We are absolutely everywhere. We are looking forward to this episode. There's a lot going on this week. It's amazing how much Mormon news there is every week, isn't there, Al?
Yeah, for sure. And, this week it just seems like it's real messy, like the news that's out there. It's like, oh, train wreck after train wreck,
Well, we could cover the 283rd temple dedication or the, we could,
or we can do that.
Or Elder so-and-so of the 70 goes to visit a stake conference. I'm just not sure that that's the kind of news that really captivates our listeners. I'm
you're
not sure
right
about that.
We're here for the stuff that's juicy.
Yeah, let's hope so. You got the joke of the week, right?
I do. Are we ready for this joke of the week?
I think so.
Okay, so there's three gentlemen sitting around talking together: a Scientologist, a Catholic, and a Mormon. Okay, talking about their families. And the Scientologist jokes, hey, I've got 4 kids. If I get one more, then I'll have a basketball team. The Catholic joins in and says, well, I've got 10 kids. And if I get one more, then I'll have a football team. And then the Mormon speaks up and deadpans, I've got 17 wives. One more and I'll have a golf course.
Very nice.
Terrible
Very
joke.
nice. Very nice. I guess that's why, Al, that there's 3 gospel topics essays on polygamy.
That's exactly right. Yeah, because we just have to hammer that through. Because the LDS Church does not practice polygamy anymore.
Well, sort of.
At least in this life, right?
I guess in this life.
Yeah, okay. They'll sell you to more than one wife. But...
Yeah, they will. They will. Okay, so the follow-ups from last week. Okay, so our first.
Yeah, there's plenty.
We got a lot going on here. So first of all, this is from Tad Welch on September 1st, 2022 in the Church News, DeseretNews.com. BYU temporarily removes the ROC student section from the volleyball floor after the racist incident, and we talked about this last time. I was actually there on that day. This is like Martin Harris, the man who
Hmm.
knew. Al, I was
Hmm.
there.
I know, and I felt kind of cheeky asking if you had screamed out any racial epithets, because it kind of looks now like maybe nobody screamed out any racial epithets.
Well, just yeah, let's get into that here in a sec. But like I
Yeah,
said, going back to
you
that
go
Martin,
first.
let me go back to that Martin Harris.
Yeah,
I
I'm
saw
jumping ahead.
I saw what I saw. I know what I know. It was no delusion, Al. I was
Hmm.
there and I saw it. Just as the
Hmm.
sun shines in the window,
Hmm.
I saw this volleyball game. Okay, so the ROC section, first of all, that what does that stand for?
Uh,
That's the
I
student section. Roar of the Cougars.
Oh, Roar of Cougars.
That's
I didn't know. It's been a while.
yeah. That's the student
Yeah.
section there. So we had the racist incident there. What were you saying? That I think we got our listeners caught up. If you're not familiar with it,
Okay.
we had all these links in our show notes, and we also discussed this last week. So what's going on?
Okay, so the BYU Police Department went through and reviewed the video footage. I mean, they did a full on investigation on this, Steve. They took it seriously. They went through and first of all, the young man that was accused of yelling the racial epithets, for like I think this young lady served twice, and on the second time she served, he was looking at his phone. The first time she served, he wasn't even in his seat. He wasn't anywhere around there. And furthermore, they checked the reactions from the crowd. There was members of the BYU basketball team in attendance, African American members of the BYU basketball team. So there was no response from them. I mean, that's kind of the real suspicious thing, is that we've got an accusation of a very inflammatory word being thrown out there, and it's not inflaming anybody. So they're looking for fire, and there's no smoke. You know.
And I think we were both on board last week. Of course, we condemn any negative racial, if anything happened, if anyone used any racial slurs or
Yeah.
was derogatory
Hmm.
towards Ms. Robinson here, we
Yeah.
condemn that.
Absolutely, and this is something where, you know, they. It's not that BYU doesn't have racism on its campus. We're not trying to make that kind of a statement by any means, because the TikTok sensation, the Black Menaces, they have certainly proven that there is a an indoctrination of racism that is just kind of always there, with the ignorance of the students, and it's something we're trying to combat.
I would say that there's racism at every institution of higher education. I'm not sure if
That's
BYU
fair.
is particularly special in that regard. Um,
No, I
this
think you're right.
this does remind me of why we can't have nice things. Though one guy comes in, he's not even a BYU student,
Yeah.
and he allegedly says something, and boom, we're going to get rid of the student section. I
Yeah.
mean, and I have a question. So we got the police are involved. Are you going to be arrested for saying the N word?
Um, that's just it. It's like, what is the crime? I mean, is this considered a hate crime? And we're certainly heading that direction with regards to racism in this country, just because we understand that um, there are certain words and certain attitudes that come from a time gone past, that's not even all that far past, but it just has a lot of feelings and a lot of connotations attached to it. So, I mean, there's one word, it can really ruin somebody's day. I mean, there's that argument, oh, well, it's just a word. Anybody should be able to say it. It doesn't mean anything. Oh, it means things. It certainly means a lot. So, can you be arrested for saying it? I don't think so. But I'll tell you what, if you commit a crime while saying it, then all of a sudden that becomes a hate crime.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm on board with you 100%. Obviously, we condemn anyone using the N word, or it didn't actually say the N word. It said racial slurs. It didn't actually
Yeah.
specify what they were,
Hmm.
and that should be condemned. That is despicable, and that whoever did that, if that's the case, they should be banned from BYU sporting events, and maybe even banned from BYU campus for life.
Hmm.
No, why not? But
Sure.
you're going to arrest somebody for, let's say that you arrest them on disorderly conduct, give them a
Hmm.
misdemeanor. They're going to spend time in jail for calling someone the N word. Is that because the police were
Well,
involved with this? I mean, is that where we are in our society? If I call so if someone calls me a cracker, Do they also go to jail? Anytime someone calls someone a derogatory name, where we got the police involved and we're being arrested, going to jail is.
I don't think we're heading quite that direction, but I'll tell you one thing is that if you think we have freedom of speech in this nation, um, well, first of all, you can say whatever you want, but it doesn't mean that there's not consequences attached to that. I mean,
True.
if you make threats against people in political positions, that freedom of speech comes with some pretty heavy consequences. You can't threaten to, knock off the president or a governor. Yeah, I mean, there's been several people that have had to suffer consequences for that fairly recently too.
Yeah,
So,
no
yeah,
doubt about threats. If you yell fire in a crowded building,
yep,
that is not protected by the First Amendment. If
that's
you're
right.
making a threat to the president of the United States, even on Twitter, some of these
Hmm.
people have been arrested. I get it. Those are
Yeah.
threats.
So
But you don't
hate
fire.
speech, we're kind of teetering on the edge right now. Hate
I,
speech, we're not sure if so far it seems like it's protected. Although if you can't commit any other crimes with it, because if you commit any other crime while expressing your hate speech, that becomes a hate crime.
Yeah, I really don't have a problem with that. So,
Hmm.
we had Greg from Quick Media on the program. I don't
Yeah.
know, about a month and a half ago. He did
Hmm.
a long expose on this. He's got a lot of sources inside of BYU, and he's pretty attuned to the racial sentiments on BYU, I would say. He
Hmm.
says, people have been scouring the tapes for these racial slurs, all of these internet slurs.
Hmm.
All of the videos that have been uploaded from the people's personal cameras. There's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
Cameras are going all the time. No one
Hmm.
can find any of these racial slurs at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, granted, it's a noisy, a noisy venue where I mean, we've both been to the Smithfield House where this took place. The echoes off the walls make it all the more noisy. So, cheering and chanting and whatever going on. Even so, not one person that recorded the goings on here was able to pick up audio because I think that would surface to the top like cream in a milk bucket.
Oh, baby. As soon as one
Yeah,
of those comes up, it's going to be. This made the rounds on
yeah,
national news. As soon as one person had that on tape, they'd be on CNN, they'd get a big check, and CNN would be running with it. The fact that nobody's got one, I'm just going to
hmm,
come out on a limb here and say no one is going to find one.
yeah.
You know,
If they
it would
haven't
have come
found it
out
by
by now.
now,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
they would have
Which,
found it.
then we start to look at this young lady that made the accusation. I mean, what a huge disservice that is. I mean, the biggest problem that you have, like with false reporting of crimes, is that it really damages anybody who is legitimately suffered a crime. Say like for example, someone who accuses another person of raping them. Well, what happens when somebody has been raped and they there's that precedent of, oh well, this person falsely accused someone before. It damages the problem, or it damages things, right? So, and then it makes it harder to take accusations seriously.
Without question, that is definitely the exception and not the rule. The
Yeah,
vast majority of people who report those type of things are to
yeah,
be believed. And
absolutely.
I'm not
Hmm.
saying that she made a false report. She could have been mistaken.
Hmm.
She could have thought that someone was being derogatory or
Hmm.
racist or saying something demeaning and just gotten it wrong. So
That's possible.
she doesn't have to be lying. You don't
Hmm.
have to impugn her integrity. She could just be mistaken. I mean, I've had I've had my kids have said something to me, and I said, "Hey, what? I thought you said something bad." No, no, Dad, I
Oh,
said this. Oh, okay, no
sure.
problem.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that happens. We mishear things all the time.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I mean, so the volleyball player's grandma, though, this is where I guess the intrigue gets deeper. The volleyball player's
Yeah.
grandma, Miss Richardson's grandma here,
Hmm.
she was one of the first people to be very active in this, taking to social media, taking it
Hmm.
to the news, saying that her granddaughter was at BYU, which has a
Hmm.
known issue with racist things, and has
Hmm.
been her granddaughter was the subject of all these racist insults, and this is absolutely horrible. But guess what? They looked into the grandma's social media accounts. She's had a very big
Hmm.
history of saying incredibly negative and quite frankly racist things in the past. So the person
Hmm.
who's really driving this has a very suspect history.
Yeah. So the more we look into this, the more that things come to light, we have to question what happened last weekend.
Yeah, and also all these BYU alumni are all of these left-wing BYU alumni are
Mm-hmm.
these woke BYU alumni.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm starting to sound like Greg Media, by the way.
Yeah,
By the way,
yeah.
Greg on Quick. I'm starting to sound like Greg on Quick Media. But all these woke
Mm-hmm.
alumni are posting on their social media. Oh, I'm so embarrassed of BYU, and oh, I can't believe that I went to this school. Look at the disgusting things that are happening. I mean, uh,
They went to school with plenty of racist people when they went to BYU too.
Yeah, I mean, so and then last week we talked about how Tom Holmo, the
Mm-hmm.
BYU athletic director, he came
Yeah.
out with a very quick apology. He said, "Let me be clear where BYU stands on this issue. Racism is disgusting and unacceptable." And I'm starting to I'm starting to question myself because I'm starting to wonder if this apology was really warranted.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, I mean, you certainly want to be um, what sensitive to these things, and you want to be apologetic if damage has been done, but there's also the legal aspect of it. You and I spoke in our pre-show talk about this. That hopefully we'll be able to put that one up on Patreon. This when there's an apology expressed, it usually is implied responsibility, and so it's kind of an admission of guilt. So yeah, this is something where he might have spoke too soon. But
Yeah, I,
then again, it doesn't look all that great for BYU to sit there and say, "Well, hold on, we're not going to issue an apology until we've reviewed the tape."
Yeah, so the BYU volleyball head coach, Heather Olmstead, as soon as she was made aware of it, she took action. 4 staff and a uniformed police officer were put in the student section, including the athletic administrator from Duke. So you got all of these moles in there. Only one of them's uniform, trying to find whoever it is. And Coach Olmstead
Mm-hmm.
alerted the management staff, and the crowd was very boisterous. And even the Deseret News admits that there was no observations of racist behavior. After the game, a Duke player identified one fan as having yelled a racist remark. He was
Mm-hmm.
escorted out of the arena and banned. Um, this video is publicly available on BYU TV. They called for people to try to find the racist slurs. Nobody has found anything. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's harder to find a racist slur here than it is to find a Lamanite.
Interesting.
I mean, so, I mean, why are we apologizing for something that may not have happened? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't get it.
That's going to be kind of a theme that we're going to revisit several times today with this episode. So get used to that, listener. Going forward, we've got a lot of things where did it actually happen? That's the question.
What I think he should have done is he said, okay, we take out, first of all, racism has no place at
Mm-hmm.
BYU. We condemn, if anything happened,
Mm-hmm.
we condemn it. We're going to launch a full-fledged
Mm-hmm.
investigation. We invite people that if you have video footage of the racist remarks, we
Mm-hmm.
want you to, we're in conjunction with I don't know, in conjunction with either the athletic department or the police, send that information to here. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
scour the tapes and we're going to come back and give you a full report.
Yeah.
Instead, he kind of just fell down on his sword and said, oh, we messed up, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It seems like he didn't handle it that well. I don't know.
Yeah. I know that there. That's kind of the problem. So this is such a whirlwind event. I mean, it happened on a Friday, and they were really scrambling by Saturday to figure something out. And the court of public opinion had already crucified most of BYU by Saturday morning. So yeah, there was just no getting out in front of this, and that's what everybody would expect a university to do, is to be out in front of this and say, "Oh, this is the measures that we're taking. This is we completely condemn this, and this is yada yada yada." But at the same time, you have to make sure that you're right about it and that you're accurate too.
Yeah, I mean, there's also legal repercussions of making an apology for an event
Yeah.
that's still
Hmm.
unconfirmed.
Yeah.
Why are we fueling the flames of something that may not have happened? I don't know. And
Hmm.
this is actually having, whether it happened or not, whether there were racist remarks or not, this is already starting to have an impact on BYU athletics, isn't it?
Hmm. Oh, it is for sure.
Yeah, the South Carolina canceled a women's basketball series with BYU
Hmm.
because of these particular events, and
Yeah.
it could have a wider. it could go to even more sports.
Yeah.
You were supposed to have they were supposed to have, what was it? They were return trip to Provo contracted
Hmm.
during the 2022 to 2023 season, and the head coach said the incident at BYU has led me to reevaluate our home series with BYU, and I don't feel that this is the right time for us to engage in this series. So people are starting to say, BYU,
Hmm.
because of this article, BYU is not a welcoming place, and we don't want to have athletics at BYU.
Hmm.
I mean, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Uh, this one is. I guess I can see why South Carolina made that effort or made that it, that motion, but yeah, once again, it's like, well, but BYU, they may not have even done anything. This is
It
getting
might not
punished
even
for
be.
something they didn't do.
And the only accusation is against a non-BYU student. BYU had a very swift,
Hmm.
very strong reaction of putting like 5, 6 people in the stands.
Yeah.
I don't know what more. I mean, you can only do so much to police
Hmm.
human behavior.
Well, exactly. I mean, what are they going to do? Get rid of everybody that goes to a football game and says horrible things from the football stands? I mean, the majority of people that attend BYU football games are not students.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll be waiting to see what happens.
Hmm.
I wish we could just get a wrap up on this from the BYU athletic department. Says, okay, we've
Hmm.
reviewed it, and this is what we've come to our determination, and this is what we're going to do going forward. I hope though that we're going to see that in the near future.
Hmm. Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Signature Books, www.signaturebooks.com. We invite you to check out their latest book written by Romney Burke, which is entitled Susie Young Gates, Daughter of Mormonism.
Brigham Young had over 50 wives and 56 children, but none has better name recognition than daughter Susie Young Gates. She lived from 1856 and died in 1933. Yet she, like so many women of Mormonism's past, has remained a mystery to most church members. In Susie Young Gates, Romney Burke, the author, paints a portrait of a strong woman who rose to prominence within the church, fought for the rights of women throughout the country, yet dealt with personal trials and her share of heartbreak.
Now, our next article here is we referenced this in the intro. It's a Mormon mom who's told to quit her job or get have her church membership removed. And this is an
Mhm.
article on the New York Post on the 1st of September 2022. Now, we covered this before.
Yeah.
Holly Jane is 39 years old, and she makes $500,000 a year on OnlyFans.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, she's an attractive lady. She's not the youngest lady on there, I'll tell you that. She seems like she's about 40 or so. But even so, yeah, she's doing quite well. And I mean, I'm not an OnlyFans customer. I don't really know what her whole draw is, whether she's using her Mormon status as a way to attract subscribers or customers. But that's one thing that would definitely be wrong. I could see the church not approving of that. But yeah, it seems like she's been told now by the church leaders, you can either have your job or you can have your church membership. So
Yeah, and she started her account back in 2017 when she was widowed after her
mhm.
husband died in a tragic accident. She didn't have a way to provide for herself, and then it's kind of
Mhm.
grown from there.
Yeah, she's got a very progressive, sex positive view of masturbation and sexuality in general. And she's pretty open about that with her kids in an appropriate way from what she expressed. Her oldest child understands that she has an OnlyFans and that's how she makes her money. The other kids, they know that, sometimes mommy does, things that younger children are not supposed to see.
Yeah,
But yeah, she doesn't, she's not uh, what irresponsible with them, but at the same time, yeah, I believe when we talked about this back in July, I think it was, I thought, yeah, it's just a matter of time. I mean, if you're using your LDS church status to, make a living there or to draw attention, then it's just going to get even more hot water with the church.
I don't know if she's necessarily saying that she's a Mormon mom on OnlyFans. I don't know if
I don't know either. Yeah.
if it's really being. I don't know if that is really central to who she is and how she's promoting herself.
Hmm.
Which I guess suppose would make a difference. Like we said, a media savvy member of her church discovered the news story and immediately quote snitched on her. And this is what Holly Jane said. She said they told the bishop about my OnlyFans career, and then the mom of three said that she was summoned to a meeting with her high-ranking church leader, who said you can get off of OnlyFans or you can be removed from the church.
Hmm. It was probably one of our listeners that brought it to our attention.
I don't know about that. I think it was what I read. It was somebody in her own ward. She goes
Uh-huh.
to church every single Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, she's a very active LDS person.
Yeah,
So that's what makes it all the more surprising is that this is somebody who's in Relief Society every week. Reading scriptures, offering commentary. Doing the best that she can to be the perfect Mormon mom, and she's then during the rest of the week, or I guess she goes home and turns on the camera and takes off her clothes. So
I guess so. Now, I mean, what she's doing is not illegal.
no, it's
She's not.
not.
No, it's not illegal at all. And that's why I wonder, instead of revoking her church membership, can't the church just disfellowship her and say, okay, you're not representing the values that we think should be embodied in the church. But why does that mean that you can't come to church? I mean, why do you have to have your membership completely withdrawn?
Yeah, that's one of the mysteries there. Is it because they don't want? Are they trying to set an example using her as the scapegoat? Well, not scapegoat, because I mean she's the guilty party here, but I mean the church has set up its own standards, and it has drawn the line. Said, hey, this is against church teachings. You can't live against church teachings and maintain a temple recommend or
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
So remove her. So let's just start there. Okay. Say, hey,
Mhm.
okay, you're not
Yeah.
living up to the church
Hmm.
standards. Just forget this fellowship. Just say, hey, we're going to revoke your temple recommend.
Yeah, exactly. That would be an appropriate stand or measure to take.
That's fine. I mean, yeah, but
Because yeah, she's got. I mean, the article had pictures of her standing there in front of the temple. She's
yeah,
obviously a temple member. Hmm.
absolutely. I mean, so you do a number of things. Number one, you could revoke the temple recommend. Number two, you could disfellowship her, which means she can still participate in a limited way in all the church services.
Hmm.
There's things that you could do here besides just completely kicking out of a church. And the other thing the church could do is they could just come out with a statement instead of revoking her
Hmm.
membership. They could just say, we don't subscribe to what Holly Jane is doing.
Hmm.
She doesn't represent the values of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Hmm.
We believe in the law of chastity, and we basically disavow what she's doing. So don't look to her as an example. They could
Yep,
just make a statement on it, and then she could still be coming to church.
that's right.
I mean, so we talked to John Ogden from Uplift Kids about this, and the more that I thought about what he said, the softer that I've gotten about
Hmm.
membership removals. We live in a modern day and age where we try to the church
Hmm.
should look for a big tent. Try to have as many diverse people as possible. If you're not doing
Hmm.
something that's illegal, if you're not doing, if you are not a total apostate who is going out on YouTube and telling people, "Hey, don't join the church," and
Hmm.
the members of the quorum of the 15 are sacrificing chickens inside of the temple. Let live and let live.
Yeah,
That's I personally hope that she can just retain her membership in some capacity or another, because she seems very devout. She prays. She goes to church every Sunday. They have scripture
hmm.
study. Why are we getting rid of somebody who's not doing anything that's illegal?
Especially during a time when the church is losing members like by the droves.
Yeah, church growth has decreased
Yeah.
every single year for the last 10 years with
Hmm.
probably no end in sight. So,
Because what the church is doing now. I mean, it certainly sends a strong message to single mothers that no, you cannot use sex to or sexuality to
yeah,
make
no
a
sex
living.
here.
Yeah. Although I'm sure that the church had no problem cashing the tithing checks that she was paying. So
For sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's not engaging in any sexual activities with anyone.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Hmm.
Well,
No,
we're
she's
gonna
engaging in photography. In fact, I guess you could go as far as to say she's engaging in art, but the relationship that she's having with her fans or subscribers or whatever they would call them, then it becomes a little something else. But even so, it's not sexual if you're not in the same room. I mean, you can have sexual banter and a sexual conversation, but without physical touching, is it? It might be uh, inappropriate by church standards per se, but
Sure, for sure.
she's not guilty of breaking any moral code as far as I'm aware. I mean, feel free to point out if I'm wrong, but I think the church would gladly say, well, this is inappropriate, of course.
Fine, go ahead, say it.
Yeah,
No
but
problem. Go ahead and disavow her. Tell her
mhm,
that, go ahead and even make a public statement. No
mhm.
problem. I just don't understand why she has to lose her membership. That's my only thing.
I guess the underlying theme that I get with this whole thing, D-Vase, is that you got a lady who about a month ago comes out and does a news article that says, hey, look how progressive the LDS Church is. And the response from the LDS Church is, oh, no, we're not. So I'm just kind of surprised, like, oh, yeah, you can be an OnlyFans uh, talent and be a temple card carrying member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints. And the church said, no, you can't.
No, that's fine. And it's also difficult to tell someone, hey, you have to quit your job or you have to quit your church membership. That's a
Mhm.
difficult position for people.
Yeah, for sure. And I really think that when she did the article, that she was trying um, to be an advocate or a missionary effort to like say, hey, give the LDS Church a chance. They're not as hard nosed as you think they are, because I'm an OnlyFans star, and I'm still a member of the church. The church's response was, no, you're not anymore.
Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move along from that one. Just
Okay.
a quick note here. I did start a YouTube a series that's called the Mormon Movie Reviews,
Hmm.
which you helped out with, and also your wife helped out a little bit on that too,
A
which
little
was really
bit, yeah.
nice.
We watched the first. Let's see. I haven't gotten to the Lost Manuscript, but we've seen episode 1 and 2. Really good, loaded with information. I've got to recommend to our listeners, if you grew up on watching hokey old seminary movies or LDS films, you need to go and check out this Mormon movie reviews, because D-Ways does a deep dive into the information and the history behind all these movies, and you'll learn things that if you thought you knew everything about church history and everything about these movies, especially, you'll. I challenge anybody to come after watching this and say, I didn't learn something from D-Ways.
Well, hopefully they do. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we have released this last week, the Three Witnesses, the
Mm-hmm.
1963 classic, and also the Lost Manuscript in 1974.
Yep.
And the First Vision, 1976, that's the most famous one. The church has done that
Mm-hmm.
movie quite a few times about Joseph Smith's First Vision, but that's the most famous one
Oh
witness.
yeah. Where the young Joseph Smith, he was the same kid that played in, I can't remember the actor's name, but he played in Where the Red Fern Grows.
Yes.
Um, yeah, he did a couple of movies in the '70s and kind of became a pretty good known actor, but then faded into obscurity after that.
Stuart Peterson.
Stuart Peterson, okay, that's his name, yeah,
Yeah,
and
and the one after that is going to be from time to for time or eternity, and your wife helped out a lot with that one as well.
well,
So
we had a good time watching that one with you
yeah,
last
that
week,
was
and
good.
yeah, we got a little bit of preview for that. So good things coming down the channel here. So keep an eye on Divas's new Mormon movie reviews, because boy, they're really good.
Yeah, hopefully they are. I put a lot of time, an amazing amount of time into each one of these hour-long episodes. It's
Mhm.
ridiculous. Now,
Yeah.
our next, we're gonna move. That's all the follow-ups from last week. Now, our first article here is one that I kind of hate to mention,
Hmm.
and I hesitate to mention it because I do not like to, as a so-called news source here, Mormon News Roundup.
Hmm.
I don't want to delve into news sources that are not verified, that are speculative, that there's a
Hmm.
lot of random stuff out there on Reddit and conspiracy theories that that somebody was on the top of Ensign Peak and saw, elder iring, sacrificing goats, just a lot of
Yeah.
random crap around there. So I don't like to delve into speculative, but we are with this next article just a little bit because
Hmm.
Bonnie Cordon's grandson's death is raising some questions, isn't it, Al?
Well, the reason why we're delving into this is because, unlike the BYU thing, there's some smoke around this one, and somebody's saying that there's fire. So that's it. It's worth mentioning, and furthermore, it's becoming pretty big news. People are driving this. We're looking into a death that there's now some suspicion around it.
Yeah,
So.
so first of all, we have a couple of leaked documents here, and they have not been totally substantiated. They have not been
Mhm.
completely verified. But we're talking about the autopsy report, the child
Mhm.
fatality prevention specialist reports, some of the police reports that were involved with this. So let me just give you the
Mhm.
basic breakdown. Back in 2016, on about December 9th, Bonnie Cordon, who's the Young
Mhm.
Women's president, was on a family vacation to Disney World in Orange County. At nighttime, Bonnie Cordon's daughter, her son, ended up passing away suddenly. And from the chief medical examiner's report that's been leaked, and again, these are not verified, we understand that, but there's a lot of leaked documents that are surrounded to this, and it's really starting to really add up. It's
Mhm.
saying that the manner of the death of Bonnie Cordon's grandson was homicide from blunt head and neck trauma. Basically, the 2.5-year-old child was shook to
Mhm.
death,
Yeah.
which is absolutely tragic.
Yeah, and that's where it's getting to be really heartbreaking. Anytime that there's a death of an infant, it's a tragedy, and especially when you have things like, well, he was shaken. Um, I guess one might say, well, could it have been from riding some sort of roller coaster at Disneyland. Well, I I don't think so because it's not really something that happens at Disneyland. You don't hear about kids getting shaken baby syndrome or having problems like that
Yeah,
from
I mean,
from
there's
riding even Big Thunder Mountain.
yeah. I mean, there's according to this report, cervical spine cord hemorrhage, optical hemorrhage,
Yeah.
contusions in the brain, serious.
Hmm.
And Bonnie Cordon's daughter, Hannah Cordon, was arrested and charged with aggravated child abuse.
Hmm.
And there's just a lot of questions that are surrounding this. Well, why are we bringing this up? I mean, if a member of the church leadership, if they had a family member who, I'm not saying that it is true, but if was involved with something like this, that would be tragic. I don't think it would be
Hmm.
necessarily newsworthy. The reason that I'm bringing it up is because Sister Corden, time and time again, has spoken about this particular incident over the
Hmm.
pulpit, in talks, in official church publications, talking about how this tried her faith and ended up being a faith promoting experience, which really has a lot of people scratching their heads.
Yeah, and that's where it gets a little bit newsworthy as to, okay, if she's painting a very different picture than what the autopsy report says, is she trying to rewrite history? Or is she just trying to uh, paint this in the most favorable light possible? What is her motivation? I know that with her position that she's there to that she's got to provide information and talks, and she's got to give inspiration to the masses. But I mean, if this was something more sinister than just a yeah, if there was something that really evil that happened here, then that's not the sort of way to use it in order to teach a lesson.
Yeah, apparently, eventually her daughter was arrested, but eventually no charge. The prosecutor decided not to bring any charges. And this is making the rounds because here on 24th of August 2022 in the church news, we see an article that says how President Corden learned to hashtag hear him after her
Mhm.
grandson's death. So it says President Corden shares how she found healing while fulfilling an assignment at the primary children's hospital in Utah. So she reflects that her grandson's death was very difficult for her, but she relied on the Lord to get herself through going to a children's hospital,
Mhm.
which must be really, really hard for her.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to her. But if you look at the circumstances, and there's quite a bit of evidence here that we don't have time to go through all of it. That a
Hmm.
lot of it I understand is unconfirmed, but there's just a lot of evidence that this death here was not just a simple, a tragic accident or something like that. It really does seem to be that there was some intent on the part of Sister Cordon's daughter.
Yeah, what you've got is on a when you have like a newborn infant, someone that's 6 weeks old, then shaken baby syndrome. It doesn't take much. You can shake a baby and cause enough damage to kill it. A 2.5-year-old kid, a toddler, it takes a little bit more. Well, it takes a lot more than just a shaking, because by that time the cranium is fully formed. The neck muscles are developed enough to hold the head up, and so there's a lot more resistance to that kind of fragility. So, in order for there to be a level of abuse to cause a death in a 2-year-old or a 2.5-year-old, it's a significant amount of abuse that's
Yeah,
required.
I'm looking at the obituary of this poor child here, Derek Nolan Cordon, and it talks
Mhm.
about all of these documents. It never talks about his cause of death. It just says that he passed away in Arnold
Mhm.
Palmer Hospital in Orlando, Florida, at the age of 2.5, and it's really, really tragic. And
Yeah,
condolences are to the family, and of course, we don't want anyone to take this podcast and think that they have the ability to make a repercussion or to take action or to be a vigilante of any sort. That is not what we're saying
no,
whatsoever.
not at all. What we're saying is that there is a story that's going around right now. We feel compelled to report on it because it is a story. There is news, but unlike with the BYU volleyball thing, let's withhold judgment, and let's not make any rash conclusions here. Let's watch it play out. I'm sure that there's legal entities involved in this. Let's see what they say. They're doing
Well,
the
and that's the
investigation.
thing. Is this that well, the investigation, Al, is done. This is back in 2017. No
Hmm.
charges have been brought. She was arrested, and the coroner's report said that the mother's. Let me see here. The mother
Hmm.
had impulsive and violent action, and the father had inaction. So after the mother shook the son, after Hannah shook Derek,
Hmm.
he was unresponsive for almost a period of an hour, and that's why the
Hmm.
coroner's report says that the father is also somewhat responsible, and that they did not call for 911 and they did not take
Yeah.
the child to the hospital for a full hour. So this is just the circumstances surrounding this child's death are very troubling. We
Yeah.
know for a fact that she was arrested. Okay, no charges were
Hmm.
ended up being filed. We get that, but how is that the source of a faith promoting story that is making the rounds? Is that really what we want to use for a faith promoting story? I realize that the daughter was ended up not having any charges. She hasn't been
Hmm.
exonerated, but there's no charges, and that
Yeah.
doesn't seem like a great basis to try to build testimonies off of.
I don't think so. I think that there's better stories that can be used. I am a little bit suspicious when Bonnie Cordon talks about it, to see if is she trying to paint this as like a different history than what actually happened. If so, then that's very hurtful to the memory of her grandson. It's not helpful in the least.
Okay, so
So let's just. I hope we don't have another Paul H. Dunn on our hands. I'll say that.
I don't know what to think
Yeah.
I don't know what to think based upon all the information that I have. And I realize that some
Hmm.
of this is unsubstantiated, is leaks,
Sure.
it's stuff, it's not fully corroborated, but it
Hmm.
looks pretty legitimate from what I've seen from a number of different sources, from autopsy report to medical examiners reports to obituaries
Hmm.
to other statements. Now, if you we're going to link to the Mormonism Live did a full 3 hour episode on this with a Radio Free Mormon and Bill Reel, where they really
Hmm.
do a deep dive into it, which we don't have the time to be able to do. But
Yeah.
there's just a lot of questions surrounding this, and I greatly question. why this is a good story to be used to build anyone's faith. It doesn't seem like a faith promoting, an appropriate faith promoting story, regardless of whether somebody is going to end up going to jail.
Yeah. This is kind of like trying to build a sermon off of one of those obscure Old Testament stories where horrific things happen.
Yeah. Okay, so our next article here is on August 29, 2022, and it's on myheraldreview.com. And it says, this is by Lida Longa, and it's LDS lawyers aim to block testimony of clerk in the abuse case. So representatives of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, this is back to that AP story that happened, the AP scandal story in Arizona about Paul, what was his name? Paul Adams. So they are asking a higher tribunal to block an order by a superior court judge that would compel the ward clerk from that Arizona church to divulge the confessions of Paul Adams. So what's going on in that particular case there, Al?
Okay, so with this case, this has been a big one. This has been the driving case, or for a long time, and this is just the next thing to come out. We've got the church that's saying, well, there's priest penitent privilege with regards to confessions that were made to the bishop. But this one's actually a little bit of a loophole, because this one's looking for the testimony of non-clergy. This is a clerk would be. Well, I don't think you would consider a ward clerk to be clergy. You would consider their calling to be like the
secretary, an administrative assistant, or a secretary.
Yeah, administration, exactly. Yeah. So the support staff for the clergy, sure. And so this is the loophole that the court's trying to use to get around that priest penitent privilege, and the court has been submitted by the church. Hey, we want to block the clerk's testimony. Well, that's kind of the problem, is that the church, before all this, didn't have that loophole closed. So it's very possible that the court, especially with such a high-profile case as this, and where there's so much at stake, they want to get to the bottom of it. All the notes from the disfellowshipment, from the excommunication, from that church court, that's going to be the clerk taking those notes in that room.
Yeah, so the bishops who were involved, they have invoked priest penitent privilege, and they're not going to be compelled to give any testimony. The clerk, on the other hand, he doesn't have that. So the lawsuit that's going forward is saying, hey, we want the clerk to be compelled to testify as to what took place. And the church is blocking that, is putting in a motion saying, no, we don't want the clerk to tell what has happened. So, I mean, this is just from, I think a lot of people will perceive this as saying, hey, this is just another step that the church is taking to try to either cover this up or bury this case, and not come down on the side of the victims, but instead, once again, trying to come down on the side of the perpetrator. The perpetrator, who is dead now, you're trying to cover up his testimony. It's just, I don't know. I've seen a lot of bad news this week, Al.
I'll say this week's a tough one, because there's a lot of real icky stuff in it, So if you were looking for a lot of humor, a lot of lighthearted things, some interesting, and especially if you're looking for something to put the church in a good light, this week is not the week.
No, and I really try not to cherry pick these articles here, but this is really coming up. People, again, you're kind of ripping open the wound afresh, because if the church was trying to come clean and say, we want to do right by the victims, then it seems like they're trying to keep everything under wraps as much as possible, instead of letting things come out to light.
Exactly, and keeping in mind that this is the church that claims to be the only one, only true church. So that this is their actions, is to try and block truth from coming out, instead of saying we will comply in whatever way because we are that committed to the truth. This is a court case, just like anything else, where it's like, okay, you're making allegations against us, you have to be able to provide the evidence, so prove it. And
I mean, this case is, we're only hearing about this case because the family basically decided not to settle. There's so
Hmm.
many other cases out there where the
Yeah.
church is just coming in and saying,
Hmm.
signing NDAs and saying,
Yeah.
we're going to give you millions, and that they'd never see the light of day.
Yeah, for sure. You're absolutely right. The only reason why this one got the light of day is because these girls deserve better.
Yeah. And along the same lines, there's more news from the AP. We thought that we were
Hmm.
going to try to put the AP sex abuse scandal behind us. Honestly,
Hmm.
I think everybody from the church to everybody else was hoping to leave this behind, but it's still in the light. And our next article is along the same lines. And this is from that same Herald Review there, the Arizona
Hmm.
paper in the town of Cochise County, I guess, which is where this took place.
Yeah.
And it's the former bishop who was named in the suit that we're talking about. He's
Hmm.
this is there was two bishops involved, but this is Bishop Herod and then Bishop Robert Mousy. I'm not sure I'm saying that
I think
name
that's
right.
right, Mozzie. Yeah. Hmm.
He's going to be appointed to the Palominas District County Elections Board, even
Yeah.
though he is currently under criminal investigation, and the
Hmm.
church that he was representing as an official representative of the church is being sued. So he's embroiled in scandal, but he's going to be appointed to the county elections. I want to say I think it was 2 days ago he was appointed.
Hmm. Well, you know how it goes, D-Vase. Nothing goes hand in hand like politics and scandal. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, oh my
This
goodness.
is. Uh, is there nobody else that they could appoint?
Yeah, I mean, Mousy, he's the one who did excommunicate Paul Adams,
Hmm.
who was the perpetrator in the AP abuse case.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
it's so that goes to his credit. It probably is a little late, but even so, better late than never, I guess.
Yeah, it's just like, well, I mean, we have official. It seems, I don't know. It's the voters can obviously vote however they want, but putting somebody in a public position who's currently under criminal investigation, and that he was a representative in a very controversial case in which people were seriously harmed
Hmm.
by a direct result of his inaction. Remember, the Arizona law said that he could have been a reporter.
Yeah.
It's optional in Arizona, so he could have reported and
Hmm.
stopped the harm on these two young girls. And he's
Yeah.
being criminally investigated. He's being appointed to a public position.
Yeah.
That really strains. That really strains. That's shocking.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, in the event that he gets charges placed against him for not for being an accessory to the crime, for not reporting it, well, they're going to have to find somebody to take his place anyway. So I just don't know why they wouldn't try to appoint somebody that doesn't have an open investigation going on that could result in the candidate being sent to jail.
Now, I don't think that he can be arrested because this was during priest penitent
Okay.
privilege. But the problem also that I've read about him is that he was the family physician. So,
Oh,
as a physician, physicians are mandatory reporters of
there's
child
a double
abuse.
whammy. Yeah.
So, you're saying, could he be arrested? Well, probably not, but I don't know. This has got to work its way through because you're a physician. Someone has told you an act of sexual child abuse. You're a mandatory reporter.
Yeah.
So which one supersedes? Which one is primal, or which one is the more important law?
Yeah. This is a tough one. This one's going to get. This is going to be really interesting. I'm glad I'm not the judge, jury, or executioner on this.
Now that I'm reading the article, actually, maybe it was John Herod who was the well-known doctor.
Oh, was Herod the doctor?
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I think I may have misspoke there, but
Okay.
you wonder. See, this AP abuse thing didn't really hit until last month. He had already been running for office, and so probably nobody knew.
Yeah.
And by then, the votes would probably be in, and it's too late.
Hmm.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, what a mess.
Yep.
Uh,
Sure is. A lot of mess in the news this week.
Hey everybody, it's D-Vase here. Thanks so much for listening to the Mormon News Roundup. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Allow me to explain. Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
We have 2 articles left, and we are going to end on a high note here. Al, you've got the next article here.
I do. And this one is a bit of a mess for the church. It's not quite so icky as far as, sexual assault or murder of children, but this one is the LDS Church loses billions in 2022. This one's coming from the Salt Lake Tribune, and it, excuse me, so there's a couple of big points that need to be brought out with this one. All right, so the LDS Church, it did lose tens of billions of dollars from the Ensign Peak investment firm. So with that, here's the interesting thing that I find, Dives, is that the church lost 6% in the first quarter. By comparison, would you like to venture a guess as to what the Dow Industrial Average lost in the first quarter?
I would think it was like 20%, wasn't it? Or I don't know.
No, 4.6%. It wasn't nearly so bad. So the church actually did worse than the Dow.
Yeah. Maybe they should have prayed a little bit more about which stocks to buy.
One would think so, right? I mean, that one would think that the church should be ahead of the curve and still behind.
That's funny. Now that I'm thinking about it, if Jesus is leading the church and he is also, leading, Jesus obviously wants Ensign Peak to succeed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
exactly.
Wouldn't he be inspiring the leaders of the church to invest in the absolute best stocks? That way, his church would have the most amount of resources to save his, to save the humans on this planet.
Well, exactly. I mean, when you take the widow's mite and you bury it in the ground, and then come back 10 years later, then the Lord is not pleased to just get that one widow's mite back. When you take that widow's mite, give it to somebody who squanders it, and he doesn't get it back, he's upset as well. The Lord is only pleased with those that take that widow's mite and come back with 10 widow's mites at the end of that 10 years and hands it back to the Lord.
Yeah, so apparently the Ensign Peak managers here, the advisors, they are wicked and slothful servants because they're doing worse than if you just put it in a regular Dow Jones Industrial Average. You could have lost 4.6. They're doing worse. They're wicked and slothful servants.
Exactly, and I know that I'm totally taking two different Bible stories and mashing them together, but it's all in good fun. This is this one's messy for the church. They lost big, but at the same time, they're still billionaires, multi-billionaires. They still have hundreds of billions of dollars. So this wasn't detrimental. That's a lot of money. I mean, tens of billions of dollars that they lost, and they're still, yeah.
Yeah, in the quarter, it says that they lost $1.6 billion in the quarter.
Oh, in the quarter,
They are losing. Everybody is losing.
Yeah, the stock market's down, no question about it. It's been a rough year for the stock market. Everybody across the board. But let me tell you that for losing billions, the church is still going to be there when the market goes back to bull and makes its run again. So
yeah, they will. Now, I mean, Ensign Peak, they start. How do we know about all this? Well, it's because of Lars Nielsen, who was the whistleblower complaint, and that forced Ensign Peak to start filing SEC reports starting. So we get a quarterly SEC report now out of the church starting in February of 2020, which reveals how much the fund has.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Lars Nielsen, thank you very much for blowing the whistle there and saying, hey, the church is sitting on billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. And that came out, and the IRS said, okay, maybe all of a sudden we need to start paying attention to these guys. And so now the IRS is expecting quarterly reports, and they're getting quarterly reports. And, yeah, these are the findings.
Well, with the church losing that much in the stock market, maybe it is the reason that the church leaders are pushing tithing so hard. I mean, we got to make up for that deficit.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah,
could be.
Makes sense to me.
And once again, if you want net blessings, pay net tithing. If you want gross blessings, pay gross tithing. But they might remove that option for the net blessings going forward. We'll see.
What about gross stock losses? How much?
Exactly. We got We gross tithing so that we can cover our gross stock losses.
I want net losses. Those are smaller, when it
Yeah,
comes,
for sure.
so I guess I better pay on net because the church is losing so much money in Ensign Peak that I don't want, this isn't a big time. Maybe you should be paying more tithing when Ensign Peak is doing well. That way the church will
Yeah,
be making more money, and then you should reduce tithing when it's not doing well because you're not going to have as much.
because isn't that exactly how rainy day funds work?
Yeah, that actually makes sense the more that I think about it.
Certainly does.
Okay, that does bring us to our final and feature article here, which is Untold, the girlfriend who didn't exist. So this is the story from Notre Dame to the NFL. Manti Te'o's future in football showed promise until a secret online relationship sent his life and career spiraling. And why are we covering this on the Mormon News Roundup? Well, it's because Manti Te'o is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, maybe one of the most popular athletes out there, right, Al?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. At least he was when he was playing for Notre Dame.
Sure.
Then when this whole thing came out, yeah, the rest of the world had no problem poking fun at his expense, which comes with celebrity status. I mean, that's kind of the sad thing is it is a double-edged sword, and they did make a mention of that in the show that it's shocking. Anybody that's had any kind of celebrity contact will understand that um, the media is very quick to build you up, and they're even quicker to tear you down. So this poor guy, go to Netflix, watch Untold, the girlfriend who didn't exist, and this one, let me tell you, it's heartbreaking. This one was this was rough to watch actually because this poor guy. All right, it's they're mid 2000s, and he's online dating is becoming a thing, and he finds somebody on Facebook that just sends him a message. It's like, hey, let's be friends on Facebook. And he's like, do I know you? And she's like, well, I know your cousin. And like this person, he reached out to his cousin. He's like, yeah, I've talked with her a little bit. Yeah, she's cool. And he's like, okay, so he starts striking up a relationship with this person. Only thing is, Manti Te'o did not have any idea that it was it was a Samoan male that he was engaging in this relationship with over the internet. And he was definitely getting catfished. And he, I mean, everything looked good to him. He had there was pictures, there was a story, and the crazy thing is that we have the perpetrator, and I call it a perpetrator because I mean it just feels like a crime was committed. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, it
yeah,
does.
it
Even though he
feels
was never arrested.
never arrested because there's not really there's not really any law that says, oh, you can't lie to somebody and create a fake online persona and engage in a relationship. Now, had he been soliciting him for money, I believe that he could have gone after him.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think that there, at the end of this, I would probably assume that there would be some sort of way to go after that person legally, like fight for financial recuperation, especially since Manti Te'o went from being a first round draft pick candidate to he didn't get drafted until the second round. I mean, it impacted the relationship that he had, and the way this person manipulated him really affected his college football career. It affected his professional career. He he went from being on top of the world with tons of support because his grandmother and his girlfriend had died the same day, but then people found out that his girlfriend wasn't dead, that she, in fact, never existed.
Yeah.
And so then people turned on him and said, "Well, I'll bet you he was I'll bet you he was involved in it." Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
he
the crazy
was
part.
involved, but he was the victim.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a legitimate concern to have. So,
And
but yeah,
he was a Heisman Trophy finalist. And in 2012, a Deadspin article broke the news that Kekua, who was Teo Manti's, he's been communicating with her on a regular basis. He was actually the social media creation of Naya, who has since come out as a trans woman. And
Yeah.
the thing about arresting Naya or going after Naya, first of all, Naya doesn't look like she's trans now, so Naya doesn't look like she has any money. You wanted to go after her, there's nothing there. And
Exactly.
Mateo, he doesn't need any money. He was in the NFL. He made millions in the NFL.
Yeah. That's true. So I mean, Mentai still came out on top. It was just, boy, that poor guy. And I gotta hand it to him. This guy had a really good attitude. I mean, I fell victim to catfishing once upon a time myself.
Oh my goodness, is that right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in the early 2000s, and online dating was a thing, and I ended up getting strung along. I didn't get strung along for 3 years. I got strung along for I think 3 months, and realized that, wait a second, this person keeps coming up with excuses why we can't meet. And so after 3 months, I said, look, if I'm never going to get to meet you, it's over. And that was the end of it. But coming to terms with that, it's not something that I came to on my own. It's something that I had to get some help in order to come to that conclusion, to say, hey, the person that I'm dealing with, if they were a real person, there wouldn't be all these roadblocks getting in the way, or horrible tragedies that were happening where, this person was in a car wreck and this person was in the hospital, couldn't meet me because of this, or missed a plane or something, and it was, for Manti Te'o, all those things happened to him too. Like, when do I get to meet you? And it's like, I've got this thing I've got to go do with my family this weekend, so I won't be able to meet with you this weekend. Oh, that sucks. And Manti Te'o, he's just a college kid. I mean, the guy's 21 years old, right? I mean, he's a young kid, and yet we're like, how did he not know that he was being catfished? Well, I mean, go become a victim of catfishing yourself. Go out there and find somebody who can manipulate you into believing that they're somebody that they really aren't. I mean, have you ever interacted with a manipulative person? I think we all have, and it's not fun. They're not enjoyable people to be around. And furthermore, they're people that are just looking to get whatever they can out of you, and that's what really infuriated me watching this show. Is they're giving us the perpetrator's point of view, and the perpetrator doesn't really seem remorseful.
Not really
at all. They're like, yeah, this is what I did, and I did some things and this person identifies as a Christian even today, even though they're transgender. I'm just like, okay, this is another thing where I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking that whole transgender thing. First of all, the guy originally, and I say guy because pre-transition, seemed like he identified as a homosexual male. And then all of a sudden, after this whole thing went down, he found that he couldn't get a job anywhere. And that's pretty much what he says right off the bat in the first episode, is nobody would hire me because I scammed Manti Te'o. And so then all of a sudden he moves to American Samoa and gets gender reassignment surgery, and says, okay, well, I identify as a female now. And that's something that I don't want to incite a lot of hate from the LGBTQ community for that, but it just seems to me like it was a measure that would benefit him as a way to get out of trouble, rather than a way to make things right that he'd made wrong with Manti Te'o. And, I'll leave it at that. It just seemed to me like it was a way out for him. And so I've watching this, I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me? How is this person still walking around free and able to live their life when, they completely destroyed Manti Te'o's life?
I mean, so since you were catfished, Al, this documentary really hits close to home, right?
It does. It hits close to home. And, this is one where it's like, I know what it's like to have somebody toy with your feelings like that. And, Manti, he was in love with somebody who was created, who didn't exist. And, they said, well, this catfisher, he couldn't have possibly done all these voices. And then like right on the screen, you see him with the Dr. Phil show. That he goes behind like some sort of privacy screen and does a little bit of meditation, and then gives you pretty much the exact same voicemail that he left to Manti Te'o in this Lene's voice. And I'm just like, okay, this guy is really good, and not is in really good at manipulating. Not a really good person, not a good Christian by any means, but a really good manipulator.
A master deceiver.
Absolutely, master deceiver.
Yeah, and I wonder, did Manti's did his LDS faith contribute to this, or was it incidental? Because sometimes the church teaches you his fake girlfriend was a Latter-day Saint. Manti
Mm-hmm.
was raised as a Latter-day Saint. Did that have anything to do with it, or could this have just happened to anyone? Does the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints teach you to be very trusting of other people, or is this just incidental?
It certainly could have happened to anyone. I'll tell you one thing is that Utah is kind of the scam capital of the United States.
Uh-huh.
And so like the people in Utah are taught to be very trusting. And we don't teach stranger danger nearly as well in the state of Utah as we teach it in some other parts of the country. We don't teach street smart so much. We just teach, oh, well, this person's a member of the church, so therefore you can trust them. And, that's that attitude that causes a lot of people to find financial ruin, to get scammed out of things by people in their ward, to get signed up for multi-level marketing scams, because their elders quorum president just started it up into it or whatever. And there's just a lot of that goes on in the state of Utah. A lot higher rate than around the rest of the country, because I think the rest of the country says, you can't lock your door when you go to church because you can't trust that the other people aren't going to make off with it. And it's okay to take those precautions. It's okay to be safe about things. It's okay to lock your doors and to get an alarm system and to, protect what's rightfully yours. It's okay to be skeptical about people that you meet and, be slow to warm up. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a very smart way to be. But, boy, here in the state of Utah, it seems like they're like, oh, yeah, just, be friends with anybody and everybody. And sometimes that can get you into trouble. I mean, I look at the situation where, like Elizabeth Smart, when she got kidnapped, she talked about how she was manipulated and she, was controlled by this guy. And, there's people out there that will take advantage of you, and especially the younger you are. Now, keep in mind, once again, Manti Te'o, he had just gotten into Notre Dame fresh out of high school. He was a young kid, 18 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe his faith did contribute to it. It's hard to say. He had his faith and positive attitude through all this, though, was really amazing. I mean, a lot of people lose faith when bad things happen, and he was able to keep it through together during his grandma's death, being, humiliated on national.
Yeah.
I mean, he was made a laughing stock on national television, being catfished, and he's just a very forgiving person. I mean, his entire persona is just someone that you can really look up to and emulate. I mean, he's a real example.
Yeah, one of the most important things that I noticed from this movie, right at the end of the second, it's only 2 episodes. You can watch it, in an evening. Just go and see it. This is worth watching. Good. It's good. Well, I wouldn't say good entertainment, but a good cautionary tale. It's a good story, and Manti Te'o, he was really struggling. There was such a stark contrast between going to Notre Dame and starting his first game there to going to the LA Chargers and starting his first game with the Chargers. I mean, he was so confident with Notre Dame. He walked out onto that field. He owned it. It was his territory, and he started off just came like a bull out of the gate. He was hitting people and knocking them down and tackling, and boy, it was awesome to watch him. And you see that in this show. But then he goes to the Chargers, and this is after the whole catfishing thing, and his confidence is just sapped. he walks out into the field and he's numb. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's missing hits. He's playing, but he's not doing well. He's not being Manti Te'o that everybody fell in love with. So he goes to a therapist, and the therapist asks him, um, "Have you forgiven the person that catfished you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have." And he says, "Okay, I want to ask you another question." Then he says, "Have you forgiven yourself?" And it's like, "What do you mean, forgive myself? I didn't do anything wrong. I'm the victim here." And he's like, "Well, you were so confident before, and yet you allowed yourself to fall victim to this kind of deception. Can you accept that and understand that you were just a young kid that didn't know any better?" And it was a really profound thing. Like, yeah, these are the steps that you have to take in order to get over the being manipulated like that. Because yeah, like I said, he was in love with this girl that was invented by this guy.
Yeah, and people were claiming that Manti was gay and that he was in
Yeah.
on the conspiracy, and that the girlfriend thing was just something to cover up his gayness because he was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and couldn't come out openly as gay.
Mhm.
It's amazing that we even have to say that Manti's not gay. He's married now, but I guess we have to say it.
Yeah, married and has a kid. I think he's living in Utah, in fact. Yeah, a heck of a good guy. But that's one of the things is that this person was able to break down the barriers that he had, uh, and so this person's a con artist, and it's a con artist as in confidence, able to build confidence in their persona that they create. So Manti Te'o, he found certain things that took down his these barriers of mistrust. And it was, okay, this person's a member of the same church as me. This person is Polynesian like me. Not only are they Polynesian, they're also Samoan. We come from the same part of Polynesia, originally. And so they, the more and more that you come to find, also, oh, this person comes from football playing family, so they know football like my family does, and these things are really important to this
Yeah,
person.
in fact,
Yeah,
the director of the documentary is Polynesian and
yeah,
has a lot of experience with football films. Most of everybody involved with this film, including the cameraman and others, they're all Polynesians. There is
yeah.
something very special about the Hawaiian and Polynesian culture that in some ways it kind of sets you up to be more trusting. You served your mission in Hawaii. Are the Hawaiian
Mhm.
people, are they very trusting or?
They're very loving. They're very open. They'll
Yeah.
take anybody and everybody in. And when it comes to football, I gotta say that like pre 1990, you didn't see a ton of Polynesians in football. But as soon as they figured out that, oh, hey, football's a game, Polynesian people are built for football. They're massive. They're powerful. They're fast. They're great for football. And so it seems like football was created for Polynesians, if not Polynesians created for football. This is yeah. And that's why you see so many Polynesians in football. It's like it's like a duck to water. It's where they belong. This is a second home for them, and that's why it's so important to them.
Yeah. And LeBron, this is really, Manti Te'o is probably the second most famous Mormon athlete around. I would think it would be Zach Wilson and then Manti Te'o. I know there's still Steve Young's out there, but he's ancient history, I think. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Steve Young from the '80s and '90s. Yeah,
That's ancient history.
exactly. It's been a lifetime since he played for the 49ers.
Yeah,
But
so when a lot of people think about a Mormon athlete, they're going to think about Manti Te'o, and including LeBron James. He weighed in on this documentary just a couple of days ago. He had a message for Manti Te'o, and he said, "Manti Te'o, you're good, brother." And then it's got like the fist and the king, like
mhm,
the power symbol there. So
yeah,
people
hmm
are really interacting with Manti Te'o on this. In fact, the church itself on Deseret News, it featured Manti on the social media. They featured Manti on their social media account a couple of days ago. This was on August 28th, where
hmm
he talked about forgiveness has been a process. I've been through the refiner's fire, and they featured Manti Te'o and his beautiful family on
hmm
their official social media account.
yeah,
So they're really promoting him because he's still he's kept his faith through an incredible trial, and he's
yeah,
just he's so handsome. His wife is gorgeous. And it's just like the amazing story of somebody who came from very little and has gone through adversity and has come out the other end with his faith intact. It's just a very inspiring story.
Oh yeah, I really like everything about this guy. And that's another thing is I think it's a really good what step forward to see him engage in a new relationship, to find love with somebody else that's a real person, and I'm sure he's a lot wiser now. I'm sure that his dating life after the whole incident with being catfished was very guarded, and I, I'm sure that he made a lot of changes there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let me he also dropped a message after this documentary dropped just a couple of days ago. This is on Instagram. He said, quote, "I wanted to give a heartfelt thanks to everyone who has come through and shown so much love to me and my family for your messages, your comments. I'm trying to go through all of them, and it's been so amazing to share the battles that we are facing." And his message on the church media site was, "There's quote, there's this term called the refiner's fire, and life seems to continually be that for everyone. When I go through difficult times and trials, I smile because I understand what that fire is and that Heavenly Father is molding me right now. He allows the heat to increase so that I can be shaped into whom I need to become. I learned that I needed to trust God and continue doing the best that I could to allow Him to carry me." End quote. I just have a question for you, Al. When is the church going to feature Zach Wilson's social media posts?
That's going to be a good one.
And what? I know. Maybe don't hold your breath. And what are they going to let them? Yeah, the Cougar Hunter. And when are they going to let the Mormon News Roundup be on their social media posts, huh?
I guess as soon as we go through the refiner's fire, and I got to say though that what Manti Teo said about the refiner's fire, boy, that's awesome. He's when it comes to that refiner's fire, you can look at the adversity that you face in life one of two ways, and he's really a hero for taking the approach to adversity that he did. That these are things that can teach you lessons and make you a better person. Like, when it comes to refining the silver, this can be burning off the dross and the excess garbage on the outside that's keeping me from being my pure, true self. Or I can look at it as, well, how come I'm having hardship? How come woe is me? And, poor me, I wish that my life was easier, like it seems like everybody else's life is easier. So, Manti Teo, he's doing exactly what he wants to do and being an inspiration to people. So, really proud of him.
Yeah, great documentary. Couldn't recommend it anymore.
Yeah. All right. So I think we've beaten this one to death. It's been a good episode. It's been a very messy one for sure. But anything else that we need to go over here?
No. I think we covered it.
Well, we do need to go over our Mormon News Roundup poll of the week. We haven't done that.
Oh my gosh, I almost
How
forgot.
did we almost forget that?
Oh golly. Okay, thank you for bringing that up there. Can you read us the poll? Read us that. Go ahead.
This one. How do you feel about the NFL football player Manti Teo's Netflix series Untold and the girlfriend who never existed?
Okay, now we've given a lot of props to Manti, but we are also going to take this opportunity to have a small bit of amusement.
Yep.
It's a tragic story, but it also,
he's still human. He's got a sense of humor. He can take a ribbing. We're okay.
I think so. So okay, so if you go over to Anchor, you can interact with us on this poll. Oh my gosh, I'm not seeing the poll here for some reason. I got to pull it up on my phone. Maybe, do you have it there? Or no?
I've got it on my phone.
Okay, go
so
ahead.
I'll read through it, okay? Number one, his girlfriend wasn't fake. Geneticists believe that the founder effect erased all traces of her DNA.
Oh, so she wasn't fake. It's just that pesky founder effect. Oh, yeah.
Founder effect.
I remember reading about that somewhere.
Yeah.
Where have I read about that? And DNA and founder effect. Where have I read about that?
The Gospel Topics essays regarding DNA and the Native Americans. Yep.
Okay, this is a very tough joke to get. I mean, I don't blame you if you don't get that one. Yeah. So
very highbrow joke. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it was just the founder effect. Maybe his girlfriend was there all along. I don't know. Okay. Or is it number two?
Number two, Manti should have used Moroni's promise to confirm her existence before things got serious. Hashtag James15.
Yeah, that Moroni's promise could have come in handy at some point in time, couldn't have?
Oh, absolutely. Should have been able to pray, hey, is she real? And then find out, yeah, it feels right. Because you really have to want the person to be real, right?
Yeah, and James 1:5, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. Maybe he should have just asked God about it, okay? Or is it
Yeah.
number 3?
Number 3, Manti should have used the gift of discernment or at least run a basic background check.
Yeah, one or the other. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it seemed just taking a verification step could have been good. Or is it
Yeah.
number 4?
Number 4, Manti is an inspiration. He is following in the footsteps of the great early church leaders who loved their secret relationships with women.
Oh, yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, no wonder he's being featured on the church social media. He's taking a page right out of Joseph Smith.
Oh, yeah. People have been, and a lot of people are like that. They're private about their relationships. I mean, it's something that they don't want to be teased about. It's something that they, it's something special to them, right? Just like to the early church leaders, having multiple secret wives was very special to them.
Yeah, he's a chip off the old Mormon block. Okay, or is it number 5?
Number 5, as a great poet once said, it's better to have loved and lost than to never have texted at all.
Okay. I'm not sure which poet that was. It seems I don't know my poetry as well as I should.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I gotta say, with regards to that number 5, with my own catfishing experience, you want to. I mean, is it better to have loved somebody that doesn't exist than never have loved at all? And I think that the appropriate way to look at that, at least the way that I've had to look at it, is this shows you the capacity that you have to love another person. So don't let just one bad person out there that's catfished you ruin love for you, because look at the lesson that it teaches you, that you have the capacity to love that intensely, and go and find somebody that's real, that's worth it. So with that poll, I like number 4. I'm going with number 4.
What's number 4 again?
Manti's an inspiration. He's following in the footsteps of the great early church leaders who loved their secret relationships with women.
That sounds good. That does sound pretty good. Okay, why don't you take us out, Al? Appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, once again, we just want to give a shout out to Weird Alma for this episode's music. Thanks so much for joining us and ruminating with us on the great and spacious beehive. And remember, no unhallowed hand can stop this podcast from progressing.
When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, to remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan.
Satan.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a being with no moral constraints. My number 1 goal is to hurt the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.